Hi, I'm Paul. For this video, I'm going to talk about what the ego looks like when observing it on the inside. I did talk about this in yesterday's video, but to me, it seems like quite an important one, really. So I wanted to go over some of it. So observing the ego, I mean, really seeing its function. I guess I say it's important because I think one of the best ways of getting rid of something is to see it fully. Once it's completely seen fully, especially to be false, then it has no existence anymore. So, firstly, to say what the ego looks like, I'm going to have to describe what it looks like without the ego. So, without the ego, it seems, firstly, that the world itself, everything that you see and experience and hear and so on, everything that's on the outside, it seems that all falls into, let's say, falls into myself. Please forgive me for saying myself. But it does seem to be that if I go out for a walk, there's no thoughts or anything. It just seems that everything on the outside just seems to come into me and fall into myself. However, when the ego is related, it is entirely different. You see, without the ego, it seems as if there's this space all around me. And the world is the space which falls into me, but the ego, this space is closed. It kind of seems as if there's no, I don't know, there's no real outside, maybe. Let's stick with that, see how it goes. So it seems as if there's no real outside. So everything becomes closed in to a very small point, which I could kind of suggest is in my mind. This small point is a center. And from this center, the whole world is described, I guess. So I know I exist because I think I exist. I know that I love because I think I love. I know I experience because I think I experience. I know I'm right because I think I'm right. I think I know everything. The same thing. But it seems that the whole world, let's say it does come in from the outside, but when this center is related, it seems as if it's ignored that it's coming in from the outside, but seems to suggest that it's already in and then described outwards. So in a sense, what I'm saying, there's no true feelings or anything there because the whole world is thought. It came from this center in the form of description, in the form of knowledge, and in the form of memory. See, there's one thing that I noticed whilst observing this, is that when I'm living in the open space, which is not having the ego, it seemed that I didn't have memories. Now, it also appears that the memories are actually there, but I'm just not viewing them. You see, this is quite important, this, because when you're in the closed space of the ego, it seems that the memories are there, but now I'm describing the memories. So it seems now that these are what I would call memories, the descriptions of my memories. But without this closed space, it's more just the memories are there and they don't need to be described. You just act. You see something, you have to do something, the memory is already there and then you act in response. But once living in the closed space, it seems like the memory's there, then I have to turn it into a thought, then I have to talk it through, and then I have to project it out into the world. So I guess one of the biggest downfalls to this closed, centered space, the ego, is because everything, the whole world's not coming into me. I'm turning the world into a description and sending it outwards, which means that I take all the world from my memories, turn them into a description, which, like I've said before, memories are dead. You see, the present moment, to sit in this moment, to look at the trees without a description, is life. You see, to me, life is kind of like truth. Truth being anything that's not made of thought. We could say truth would be life. And reality would be the world we live in that's created by thoughts, which is descriptions. And you see, because these thoughts and descriptions kind of, let's say, look at the idea of religion, it's created by thought. It's not really life. It's just thought, descriptions. It has no real feeling to it. It has no liveness. And if you're going to be living in this space, closed space of the ego, living in a world of descriptions, so we could say a second-hand world, with no feeling, because thoughts don't feel, it would now seem, because of this lack of meaning of life, that you have to do more to fulfill. So perhaps this is why we, living in the ego space, we try to describe memories or try to remember memories. Let's say I did something yesterday that I enjoyed. I want this memory to continue on living, because life is meaningless enough living in a world of thought. So I need to seek out as much stuff as I can to make continuity. And I think this is where the fear of death comes in as well. You see, if you look at the fear of death, what is it that you're fearing ending? Your body? Or is it more your mind? Past memories? The continuity of thought? To me, it seems that's the fear of death, but that's actually the fear of life, because when the thoughts end, life begins. But I'm not going to go down that avenue. So desire and happiness. You see, when we're trying to get rid of the ego, become enlightened, so on, one of the biggest challenges what we have is to give up desire or happiness, to give up the memories of something that I enjoyed or did. You see, we want to get rid of all the bad memories that hurt us and embarrass us and so on, but we don't want to get rid of the happy memories. But you see, living from this closed center, if you're living in this closed center and we try to recall good, happy memories to make us feel good, then it is for the purpose of satisfying the center, the ego. And yet if we have bad thoughts, This is also satisfying the center because it keeps a continuity going of it. So if you're wanting to move past this ego, we can't want to do it. You see, that would be desire. Like I just said, desire would be feeding into this center, which is just keeping it going. You see, when you look at it, it seems like life is a challenge to try to get the best, to succeed, to create the best memories, to create the best ideas, to create the best images of myself. It's all this chase, which is all to fulfill this center. You see, because coming from a center, you're living a second-hand life of descriptions, the whole world seems meaningless, not fulfilling. So therefore I have to replace the original fulfillment with continuous stimulation, which is still all meaningless. So if I'm trying to fulfill this center by trying to succeed, be the best, try to get excited, whatever, desire and so on, if I'm trying to fulfill this, then I'm convincing myself that life is got meaning. But therefore I get trapped in a circle because I've got to continue, because if these positive memories start to shrivel, then I think this is where depression comes in. I think this might actually be what depression is. I've never been able to describe what depression before, but perhaps let's say that when the happy memories or happy thoughts or the continuous striving for success and more starts to crumble, whilst living in a self-centered space, life becomes very dull. And I think that might be depression, but besides, that's not really what I'm trying to talk about. So, I don't really have an answer on how to get rid of this ego. Perhaps you have to see beyond it, or see it. Perhaps really look at what I'm talking about. Don't look at it in me, though. Don't look at my descriptions, my words, or anything like that, because that's not going to do anything apart from fulfill the center. You know, like, oh yeah, you're right, I get what you're saying, yeah, that's so interesting. Does nothing. Try to take what I say and see if you could see it inside of yourself. See if you could see the motions of it happening. You might not be able to do it straight away. Perhaps you won't be able to do it if you spend an hour at it, but perhaps you will. Perhaps it might take a week, or a month, or even 6 months. But if you always keep this in mind, what I'm saying, and always keep a lookout for it inside of yourself, through daily actions, through daily times that you get excited, or maybe when you start to feel down, or so on and so on, you might be able to put the pieces together so that you can actually see it in yourself. When this is observed, exactly what it is, as false, then it has no reason to live anymore. Anyway, I think that's all I've got to say. So, thank you very much for listening.